Behind the golden gates of Kensington Palace, a revolution was quietly brewing. While the world watched Prince William and Catherine's every public appearance, analysing their smiles and gestures for any hint of drama, the real story was unfolding in the private corridors of power. What started as whispered conversations in staff quarters would soon explode into the most significant restructuring of royal operations in decades. The carefully orchestrated world of royal protocol was about to be turned upside down, and not by scandal or controversy, but by something far more surprising: genuine change. The Prince and Princess of Wales were about to make decisions that would shock long-time palace insiders, challenge centuries-old traditions, and reveal just how different this new generation of royals truly was. This is the story of how two of the world's most watched individuals quietly engineered a transformation that would ripple through every level of the British monarchy, leaving no stone unturned and no tradition unchallenged. The first signs of change appeared on a crisp Tuesday morning in early autumn, when Catherine walked into the staff dining room at Kensington Palace unannounced. The Princess of Wales had never done this before. In fact, no senior royal had ever done this before. The 23 members of their household staff looked up from their breakfast in stunned silence as she approached their table with a warm smile and a simple request. "May I join you for a cup of tea?" Margaret Thompson, the head housekeeper who had served the royal family for 37 years, nearly dropped her porcelain cup. In all her decades of service, she had never shared a meal with a member of the royal family. The hierarchy was clear, the boundaries well established, and this moment was completely unprecedented. Catherine pulled out a chair and sat down as naturally as if she were joining friends at a cafe. She poured herself tea from the communal pot and began asking questions that would later be remembered as the beginning of everything. How long had everyone worked there? What did they enjoy most about their roles? What challenges did they face? Were there things about their work environment they wished could be different? The staff exchanged uncertain glances. Was this some kind of test? Were they being evaluated? The princess seemed genuinely interested in their answers, taking mental notes as Harold Peters, the groundskeeper, mentioned how the current scheduling system made it difficult for staff to attend their children's school events. Maria Santos, one of the newer housekeepers, hesitantly shared her struggles with the outdated communication systems that often left staff uninformed about last-minute changes to the family schedule.
What struck everyone most was Catherine's response to each concern.
She didn't dismiss them or offer vague promises of improvement. Instead, she asked follow-up questions, wanted specific examples, and even pulled out her phone to take notes. When the conversation naturally concluded an hour later, she thanked everyone for their honesty and mentioned that she and William had been thinking about making some changes to how things operated at Kensington Palace. That afternoon, William joined Catherine for what became the first of many private meetings with individual staff members. Their approach was methodical yet personal. They spoke with everyone from the security detail to the administrative assistants, from the kitchen staff to the gardeners. Each conversation revealed layers of inefficiency, outdated practices, and missed opportunities for improvement that had been accepted as simply how things were done for generations. James Crawford, their private secretary, and a man deeply entrenched in royal protocol, was initially skeptical of this approach. During one of his regular briefings with the couple, he expressed concerns about the precedent they were setting. The traditional distance between royals and staff existed for good reasons, he argued. It maintained proper respect, prevented familiarity that could compromise security, and upheld the dignity of the monarchy. William listened patiently to these arguments before responding in a way that surprised even Catherine. He acknowledged the importance of tradition and respect, but questioned whether the current system actually achieved those goals effectively. If staff felt undervalued, overworked, or disconnected from the family they served, how did that truly serve the monarchy's interests? If outdated communication methods led to confusion and mistakes, how did that maintain dignity? The conversations with staff had revealed something unexpected to the royal couple. Many of their employees were incredibly talented, experienced individuals who had insights and ideas that could significantly improve operations. But the traditional hierarchy had never provided a channel for those insights to be heard or implemented. Sarah Mitchell, who managed the couple's correspondence, had developed innovative systems for organizing and responding to the thousands of letters they received, but had never been asked to share these methods with other departments. Thomas Bradley, responsible for event coordination, had identified numerous ways to streamline the planning process for public appearances, but had never felt empowered to suggest changes to established procedures. As William and Catherine continued their informal staff consultations, patterns began to emerge. The same issues kept appearing in different forms across various departments. Communication breakdowns, redundant processes, and missed opportunities for collaboration were endemic throughout their household operations. More surprisingly, many staff members had solutions to these problems but had never felt comfortable or been given the opportunity to voice them. The turning point came during a conversation with Ellen Parker, one of their longest-serving staff members. Ellen had worked for the royal family for over 20 years, starting as a junior aide and working her way up to become deputy private secretary. Her institutional knowledge was vast, her loyalty unquestioned, and her observations particularly insightful. Ellen shared with them how the royal household had evolved over the decades, describing changes she had witnessed in both positive and negative directions. She spoke about innovations that had been tried and abandoned, efficiency improvements that had been implemented successfully in some areas but never expanded to others, and talented staff members who had left royal service because they felt their potential was never fully realized. What resonated most with William and Catherine was Ellen's observation about the disconnect between the public perception of their royal duties and the internal reality of how those duties were supported. The public saw polished appearances, perfectly timed engagements, and seamless royal operations. Behind the scenes, however, these results were often achieved through excessive overtime, last-minute scrambling, and the dedication of staff members who went far beyond their job descriptions to ensure everything appeared perfect. This revelation prompted deeper conversations between William and Catherine about their own experiences and expectations. They had both grown up around royal operations, but always from the privileged side of the arrangement. Seeing the behind-the-scenes reality through the eyes of their staff members was both enlightening and concerning. They began to understand that their ability to effectively serve the crown and the public was directly connected to the well-being and effectiveness of the people who supported them. The couple started spending evenings reviewing everything they had learned from these conversations. They created detailed notes about each issue that had been raised, potential solutions that had been suggested, and areas where immediate improvements could be implemented. They also began researching how other organizations, both within and outside the royal sphere, had successfully modernized their operations while maintaining their core values and traditions. William reached out to contacts in the military, drawing on his own service experience and the experiences of colleagues who had led organizational changes in complex tradition-bound institutions. Catherine consulted with friends who worked in various professional fields, gathering insights about best practices in human resources, communication systems, and organizational development. Their research revealed that many successful transformations shared common elements. They typically began with leadership demonstrating genuine commitment to change, involved affected parties in identifying problems and developing solutions, implemented changes gradually while monitoring results, and maintained clear communication throughout the process about goals, progress, and expectations. As autumn progressed into winter, William and Catherine's informal fact-finding mission evolved into something more structured. They began documenting not just the problems they had identified, but also the specific solutions they wanted to implement. They started prioritizing changes based on their potential impact and the feasibility of implementation. Most importantly, they began developing a comprehensive plan that would transform their household operations while maintaining the essential elements of royal protocol and tradition. The staff began to notice subtle changes in the atmosphere at Kensington Palace. The prince and princess seemed more aware of day-to-day operational challenges, more appreciative of the work being done behind the scenes, and more interested in the professional development and well-being of their employees. Small improvements began appearing. Better communication about schedule changes, more flexible arrangements for staff with family obligations, and increased investment in updating outdated equipment and systems. However, these initial changes were just the beginning. William and Catherine had identified fundamental structural issues that required more dramatic solutions. The traditional departmental silos that prevented effective collaboration would need to be broken down. The hierarchical communication systems that filtered out valuable insights from frontline staff would need to be reimagined. The assumption that this is how things have always been done would need to be challenged at every level. As they prepared to move forward with more significant changes, William and Catherine knew they would face resistance from various quarters. Some staff members were comfortable with the current system despite its flaws, and might be nervous about change. Royal protocol experts and traditional courtiers would likely object to departures from established practices. Even family members might question whether such extensive modernization was appropriate or necessary. However, the couple had also discovered something that strengthened their resolve. The staff members they had spoken with were not just willing to embrace change, they were eager for it. Many had been quietly hoping for exactly the kind of modernization that William and Catherine were planning. The younger staff members especially were excited about the possibility of bringing their skills and creativity to bear in service of the monarchy. Even the more experienced staff members, once they understood that changes would be implemented thoughtfully and with respect for what worked well in the current system, expressed enthusiasm for improvements that would make their work more effective and fulfilling. The conversations had also revealed the deep pride that all staff members felt in serving the royal family and supporting their public duties. This shared commitment to excellence and service provided a strong foundation for the changes William and Catherine wanted to implement. The goal was not to abandon tradition or hierarchy, but to evolve them in ways that would enhance their effectiveness and create an environment where everyone could contribute their best work in service of the crown. By December, William and Catherine had completed their assessment and developed their plan. The time had come to begin implementing the most comprehensive modernization of royal household operations in generations. The changes they were about to announce would surprise not just their own staff, but the entire royal establishment. The revolution that had begun with a simple invitation to share tea was about to transform one of the world's oldest and most traditional institutions. The announcement came on a Monday morning in January, delivered not through the traditional channels of formal memos and hierarchical briefings, but through a personal meeting that William and Catherine held with their entire household staff in the main reception room at Kensington Palace. The choice of venue was itself significant. This room was typically reserved for meeting with dignitaries and conducting official business, not for internal staff communications. As the 23 staff members filed into the elegant space, many were uncertain about what to expect. Rumors had been circulating for weeks about potential changes, fueled by the unusual level of attention the prince and princess had been paying to operational details and their continued informal conversations with individual staff members. Some worried about budget cuts or restructuring that might eliminate positions. Others wondered if new protocols were being implemented that would make their jobs more difficult. William and Catherine entered the room together, carrying folders of documents and wearing expressions that managed to convey both seriousness and warmth. They positioned themselves not behind the formal desk, but in front of it, creating a more conversational atmosphere. William began by acknowledging the uncertainty that many staff members had been feeling and thanking everyone for their patience during what he described as an intensive period of evaluation and planning. Catherine then took over, explaining that over the past several months, she and William had been conducting a comprehensive review of how their household operated. This review, she emphasized, had not been prompted by dissatisfaction with anyone's work, but rather by a recognition that the systems and structures supporting their royal duties had not evolved to keep pace with the changing nature of those duties or the talents and potential of the people performing them. The first major announcement was the creation of entirely new positions within their household structure. William explained that they were establishing the role of Staff Development Coordinator, a position that would be responsible for professional training opportunities, career advancement pathways, and ensuring that all staff members had the resources and support needed to excel in their roles. This position would also serve as a direct liaison between staff and the royal couple, providing a formal channel for suggestions, concerns, and ideas for improvement. They announced that Sarah Mitchell, whose innovative correspondence management systems had impressed them during their staff consultations, would be promoted to this new role. Sarah's eyes widened in surprise, but her colleagues burst into spontaneous applause. Her promotion sent a clear message that excellent work and innovative thinking would be recognized and rewarded, regardless of traditional hierarchical expectations. The second major change involved the creation of cross-departmental project teams for all significant royal engagements and initiatives. Rather than having each department work in isolation and coordinate only at the final stages, mixed teams would be formed from the beginning of any major project. This would include representatives from security, logistics, communications, household management, and any other relevant areas, working together from initial planning through final execution. Thomas Bradley, the event coordinator who had identified numerous opportunities for improved planning processes, was selected to lead the first of these integrated project teams. His initial assignment would be to reimagine their approach to the spring schedule of royal engagements, using input from all relevant departments to create more efficient, effective, and enjoyable experiences for both the royal family and the communities they visited. Catherine then addressed what she described as the technology and communication upgrades that would be implemented throughout their operations. New software systems would be installed to improve scheduling coordination, internal communication, and information sharing. Staff members would receive training on these new systems, and feedback would be continuously collected to ensure the technology actually improved their work rather than complicating it. The announcement that generated the most surprise, however, was the establishment of what William termed innovation time. Every staff member would be given 2 hours per month during regular work hours to focus on identifying improvements to their own work processes or to collaborate with colleagues on efficiency enhancements. These sessions would be completely voluntary, but any ideas or solutions developed during these periods would be formally reviewed and, if feasible, implemented with full credit given to their creators. Margaret Thompson, the veteran housekeeper, raised her hand tentatively. She asked whether these changes meant that the traditional standards and protocols that had guided royal household operations for generations would be abandoned. William's response demonstrated the careful balance he and Catherine had struck in their planning. He explained that their goal was not to abandon tradition, but to strengthen it by ensuring that it served its intended purposes effectively. Royal protocol and established standards would remain in place wherever they contributed to the dignity, security, and effectiveness of royal duties. However, practices that had become inefficient or counterproductive over time would be updated or replaced with better alternatives. Catherine added that they had spent considerable time studying how other long-standing institutions had successfully modernized while preserving their essential character. The military, she noted, maintained strict hierarchies and time-honored traditions while continuously updating their operational methods to incorporate new technologies and insights. Universities preserved their academic traditions while adapting their administrative and teaching methods to serve students more effectively. Their household could do the same. The couple then addressed the question that was on everyone's mind. What would these changes mean for individual staff members' daily work and job security? William assured the group that no positions would be eliminated as a result of these changes. In fact, they were planning to add several new positions over the coming year as their public duties expanded and as new opportunities for excellence emerged from their improved operational systems. Each staff member would receive individual meetings over the following 2 weeks to discuss how the changes would specifically affect their role, what new opportunities might be available to them, and what support they would need to adapt successfully to the new systems. These would not be performance evaluations, Catherine emphasized, but collaborative planning sessions to ensure that everyone could thrive in the evolving environment. The meeting concluded with the announcement of the most visible symbol of their commitment to change: the establishment of a monthly household meeting, where all staff members would gather with William and Catherine to discuss ongoing projects, share updates on new initiatives, celebrate successes, and address any challenges that had emerged. These meetings would be conducted in the same collaborative spirit as their recent individual conversations, with everyone encouraged to contribute ideas and feedback. As the staff members filed out of the reception room, the atmosphere was electric with excitement and nervous energy. The changes that had been announced were more comprehensive than anyone had expected, but they were also more thoughtful and inclusive than many had dared to hope. For the first time in many of their careers, they felt not just like employees serving the royal family, but like valued partners in the important work of representing the crown and serving the public. The implementation of these changes began immediately and proceeded with the same careful attention to detail that had characterized the planning process. Sarah Mitchell spent her first week in her new role meeting individually with each staff member to understand their professional goals, identify areas where they wanted to develop new skills, and discuss opportunities for advancement within the royal household, or preparation for future roles elsewhere if they chose to move on eventually. The technology upgrades were rolled out gradually, with comprehensive training provided for each new system before it went live. Staff members were encouraged to provide feedback about what was working well and what needed adjustment, and modifications were made based on their input. Rather than feeling imposed upon by unfamiliar technology, the staff began to experience it as a tool that genuinely made their work easier and more effective. The first cross-departmental project team, led by Thomas Bradley, tackled the planning for William and Catherine's upcoming tour of Northern England. Instead of each department working separately and hoping for coordination at the end, representatives from security, transportation, communications, local liaison, and household management met together from the initial planning stages. The result was a more streamlined process that identified potential issues earlier, developed more creative solutions to logistical challenges, and created opportunities for positive media coverage that might have been missed under the old system. The most immediate impact of the changes was visible in the daily atmosphere at Kensington Palace. Staff members seemed more engaged and energetic in their work. Collaboration between departments increased dramatically as people who had worked in the same building for years began to understand each other's roles and challenges for the first time. Problems that had traditionally been passed up the hierarchy for resolution began to be solved more quickly through direct communication between the people most familiar with the issues. However, the changes were not without challenges. Some staff members who had grown comfortable with the predictable routines of the old system needed time and support to adapt to the new collaborative approaches. A few long-time employees expressed concern that the increased informality might compromise the respect and dignity that were essential to royal service. William and Catherine addressed these concerns directly, emphasizing that respect and professionalism remained paramount, but that these values could be maintained while also embracing more effective and inclusive operational methods. The first monthly household meeting took place 6 weeks after the initial announcement, and it exceeded everyone's expectations. Rather than a formal briefing session, it became a dynamic discussion of ongoing projects, emerging opportunities, and creative solutions to operational challenges. Maria Santos, the housekeeper, who had initially been nervous about sharing her ideas, presented a proposal for improving the coordination between housekeeping and security that would enhance both cleanliness and safety protocols. Her suggestion was immediately adopted and implemented. Harold Peters, the groundskeeper, shared innovations he had developed for maintaining the palace gardens while minimizing disruption during official events. His methods were so effective that other royal residences requested information about implementing similar approaches. Alan Parker, the deputy private secretary whose insights had been instrumental in the initial planning process, presented a comprehensive analysis of how the operational changes were improving their ability to respond to unexpected media attention and public interest. Word of the transformation at Kensington Palace began to circulate within royal circles. Other members of the royal family expressed curiosity about the changes, and some staff members from different royal households began inquiring about opportunities to learn from or participate in similar initiatives. The success of William and Catherine's modernization effort was becoming apparent not just in improved operational efficiency, but in the enhanced morale and professional satisfaction of everyone involved. The couple began receiving feedback from external partners as well. Event organizers for public appearances noted improved coordination and more creative approaches to engagement activities. Local officials who worked with their advanced teams commented on the increased professionalism and collaborative spirit they encountered. Media representatives observed that information was more readily available and more accurately provided, leading to better coverage of royal activities. By spring, it was clear that the changes had fundamentally transformed not just the operational systems at Kensington Palace, but the culture and spirit of everyone who worked there. Staff members who had previously felt like interchangeable cogs in a vast royal machine now felt like valued professionals contributing their unique skills and insights to meaningful work. The traditional dedication to service that had always characterized royal household staff was now enhanced by a sense of personal investment in continuous improvement and collaborative excellence. The success of the initial changes encouraged William and Catherine to consider even more ambitious transformations. They began exploring opportunities for their staff to participate in professional development programs, attend conferences in their areas of expertise, and collaborate with their counterparts in other royal households or similar institutions. They discussed the possibility of creating exchange programs that would allow their staff to gain experience in different aspects of royal operations or to share their expertise with other organizations. As the second phase of their modernization plan began to take shape, William and Catherine reflected on how much had been accomplished in such a relatively short period of time. The informal conversations that had begun with Catherine joining the staff for tea had evolved into a comprehensive transformation that was enhancing every aspect of their royal duties while maintaining the dignity and tradition that were essential to their roles. The revolution they had quietly initiated was proving that tradition and innovation could work together to create something stronger and more effective than either could achieve alone. By midsummer, the transformation at Kensington Palace had evolved beyond anyone's initial expectations, including William and Catherine's own ambitious vision. What had begun as operational improvements had sparked a cultural renaissance that was influencing how royal duties were conceived, planned, and executed at the highest levels. The success of their modernization effort was attracting attention from unexpected quarters and creating opportunities that neither the royal couple nor their staff had originally imagined. The breakthrough moment came during preparation for what would become known as the Community Champions Initiative, an ambitious new program that William and Catherine had developed to recognize and support local leaders making exceptional contributions to their communities. The traditional approach to such an initiative would have involved extensive consultation with government officials, charitable organizations, and established institutions, followed by formal announcements and carefully choreographed events. Instead, the cross-departmental teams that had become integral to their operations proposed something revolutionary. Using the collaborative planning methods they had developed, staff members from different departments had identified an opportunity to create a more grassroots approach that would be both more effective and more authentically connected to the communities they wanted to serve. Sarah Mitchell, now flourishing in her role as staff development coordinator, had been working with community liaison officers to understand better how royal recognition could be most meaningful to local leaders. Thomas Bradley's event coordination team had been exploring ways to make royal visits more interactive and less formal. The communications department had been investigating how social media and digital platforms could be used to amplify positive community stories rather than simply documenting royal activities. When these different streams of innovation converged, they produced an idea that surprised even William and Catherine with its boldness and potential. Rather than selecting community champions through traditional institutional channels, they would create an open nomination process that allowed community members themselves to identify and celebrate their local heroes. Rather than hosting formal recognition ceremonies, they would visit these champions in their own communities, participating in the work they were doing and learning from their approaches to local challenges. The proposal represented such a departure from traditional royal engagement protocols that it initially met with resistance from protocol advisors outside their immediate household. Concerns were raised about security complications, the difficulty of vetting nominees through an open process, and the departure from established precedents for royal recognition programs. However, the detailed planning and risk assessment provided by William and Catherine's integrated teams addressed each concern with practical solutions that demonstrated both innovation and respect for essential security and protocol requirements. The pilot implementation of the Community Champions Initiative exceeded all expectations and established new benchmarks for effective royal engagement. The open nomination process generated thousands of submissions from across the United Kingdom, revealing extraordinary stories of local leadership that had never received widespread recognition. The site visits allowed William and Catherine to witness community challenges and solutions firsthand, providing insights that informed their broader charitable and advocacy work. Most importantly, the initiative demonstrated how their operational innovations had enhanced their ability to fulfill their royal duties more effectively. The collaborative planning process had identified opportunities and developed solutions that no single department could have conceived independently. The improved communication systems had enabled rapid response to emerging opportunities and challenges during implementation. The enhanced professional development programs had prepared staff members to take on responsibilities and challenges that expanded their capabilities while serving the Crown's interests. The success of the Community Champions Initiative attracted attention from government officials, charitable organizations, and international observers who were interested in understanding how such effective public engagement had been achieved. Requests for briefings and consultations began arriving from other royal households, government departments, and non-profit organizations seeking to learn from their innovative approaches. William and Catherine realized that their internal transformation had created external opportunities that could significantly amplify their impact. They began accepting selected speaking engagements and consultation requests, not to promote their own work, but to share insights about effective modernization that preserved institutional values while enhancing operational excellence. These external activities provided additional professional development opportunities for their staff members, who participated as experts in their own right rather than simply as support personnel. The international recognition also brought unexpected opportunities for collaboration. Other modern monarchies expressed interest in participating in joint initiatives that could leverage shared approaches to contemporary royal duties. Commonwealth organizations reached out about partnerships that could apply innovative engagement methods to broader geographic regions and diverse communities. However, the most significant development was the recognition from within the British royal family itself that William and Catherine's modernization efforts had achieved something remarkable. Senior royals who had initially been skeptical about departures from traditional methods began acknowledging the measurable improvements in public engagement, media coverage, and community impact that had resulted from their innovations. King Charles, who had long advocated for modernization of the monarchy while respecting its essential traditions, expressed particular appreciation for how William and Catherine had demonstrated that innovation and tradition could be complementary rather than competing forces. The success of their approach provided a model for similar transformations in other areas of royal operations, potentially influencing how the entire institution adapted to contemporary challenges and opportunities. This recognition led to William and Catherine being asked to lead the development of modernization guidelines that could be applied across different royal households and activities. Working with their experienced staff members, they began documenting the principles, methods, and best practices they had developed, creating resources that could help other royal operations achieve similar improvements while respecting their own unique traditions and requirements. The project of creating these guidelines became another opportunity for their staff members to demonstrate their expertise and contribute to broader institutional excellence. Margaret Thompson, the veteran housekeeper whose institutional knowledge had been invaluable during their initial transformation, worked with housekeeping staff from other royal residences to develop improved standards and training programs. Harold Peters collaborated with groundskeeping teams across royal properties to share innovations and establish best practices for maintaining royal environments. Ellen Parker, whose insights had been instrumental in the original planning process, was selected to lead the documentation of communication and coordination improvements that could be adapted to other royal operations. Her work became the foundation for training programs that other royal households began implementing to improve their own operational effectiveness. As autumn approached, marking nearly a full year since their transformation journey had begun, William and Catherine convened a special household meeting to reflect on what had been accomplished and to plan for continued evolution. The gathering included not only their own staff members, but also representatives from other royal households who had been working with them on broader modernization initiatives. The statistics presented during this meeting told a compelling story of success. Public engagement metrics for their royal activities had improved significantly, with increased attendance at events, more positive media coverage, and enhanced community impact from their initiatives. Staff satisfaction surveys revealed dramatic improvements in job fulfillment, professional development opportunities, and sense of purpose in their work. Operational efficiency measures showed reduced costs, improved coordination, and faster response times for everything from routine scheduling to crisis management. However, the most meaningful indicators of success were qualitative rather than quantitative. Staff members spoke about feeling valued and empowered in ways they had never experienced in royal service. Community leaders who had interacted with William and Catherine described a new level of authenticity and effectiveness in royal engagement. Even protocol experts who had initially been skeptical acknowledged that the innovations had enhanced rather than compromised the dignity and effectiveness of royal duties. William addressed the gathering by acknowledging that their transformation had succeeded beyond their original goals, but emphasizing that it had also revealed new opportunities and responsibilities. Their success had positioned them to influence broader institutional change, but it had also created expectations for continued leadership in modernization efforts. The challenge moving forward would be to maintain the innovation and collaborative spirit that had driven their success while expanding their impact to benefit the entire monarchy and the communities they served. Catherine concluded the meeting by focusing on the personal growth that had been achieved by everyone involved in their transformation journey. Each staff member had expanded their capabilities, taken on new challenges, and contributed to solutions that had enhanced their collective effectiveness. The experience had demonstrated that respecting tradition and embracing innovation were not contradictory goals, but complementary approaches to serving enduring values through evolving methods. The meeting ended with the announcement of their next major initiative, the establishment of the Royal Innovation Fellowship, a program that would bring together staff members from across different royal households for intensive collaboration on modernization projects. Fellows would spend time working with different royal operations, sharing expertise and best practices, while developing new solutions to common challenges. The program would also include partnerships with leading organizations outside the royal sphere, creating opportunities to learn from and contribute to excellence in various fields. As participants left the meeting, the atmosphere reflected both satisfaction with what had been accomplished and excitement about future possibilities. The revolution that had begun with a simple conversation over tea had evolved into a comprehensive transformation that was influencing not just their own operations, but the broader institution they served and the communities they engaged with. Over the following months, the ripple effects of their success continued to expand. The Royal Innovation Fellowship attracted applications from royal staff members across the Commonwealth, creating a network of professionals dedicated to enhancing royal operations through collaborative innovation. The modernization guidelines they had developed were adopted by institutions beyond the royal sphere, influencing how traditional organizations approached contemporary challenges. Most importantly, the culture of innovation and collaboration they had established at Kensington Palace became self-sustaining and continuously evolving. New staff members joined an environment where creativity and excellence were expected, where collaboration across traditional boundaries was normal, and where everyone was empowered to contribute their best thinking to serve the Crown and the public. The transformation that William and Catherine had initiated had achieved something unprecedented. It had demonstrated that one of the world's oldest and most traditional institutions could modernize comprehensively while strengthening rather than abandoning its essential character. Their success had proven that innovation and tradition could work together to create something more effective and meaningful than either could achieve alone. As they looked toward the future, William and Catherine understood that their modernization journey was not complete but ongoing. Each success created new opportunities and challenges. Each innovation revealed additional possibilities for improvement, and each positive impact reinforced their responsibility to continue leading institutional change that served both royal duties and public interest. The quiet revolution they had begun was no longer quiet, but it remained true to its original spirit of thoughtful, inclusive, and collaborative transformation. The staff members who had initially been surprised by Catherine's request to join them for tea had become partners in reshaping how royal service could be both traditional and innovative, both dignified and accessible, both respectful of history and responsive to contemporary needs. Their story had become a model for how established institutions could honor their heritage while embracing their potential, demonstrating that the most profound changes often begin with the simplest gestures of respect and genuine interest in the people who make excellence possible every day.